Donald Trump spoke for an hour and 47 minutes in his first State of the Union address of his second term. The US president took a very long time to tout his successes on the economy as well as immigration and said America was winning so much. The speech, for a largely domestic audience, kept foreign policy on the back burner. There was very little mention of Ukraine as the Russian invasion entered its fifth year. But Trump did talk about Iran as the US military buildup in the Middle East continues.
They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon.
For more on this story, we can bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turl. Philip, good to see you. Now, this speech was largely for a domestic audience, but it obviously comes as this U.S. military buildup in the Middle East continues, and amid fears that the U.S. could be preparing some sort of strike or action on Iran.
I think the foreign policy aspect of this speech was what was sadly lacking. One of the only areas that Donald Trump did talk about was Iran, and even that has blown up a polemic today, tit for tat between what the Iranians are saying and what the Americans are saying. Donald Trump, who we were just hearing in that comment there, he was saying, well, we haven't heard the words, "we will never have a nuclear weapon" from the Iranians, saying that he will never allow the Iranians to have nuclear weapons. The country, the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. The reply from the Iranians is basically, well, Donald Trump has been lying. Donald Trump is not telling the truth. He's been repeating and repeating the same lie, which basically means at the end of the day, people are going to believe that that is the truth. But the Iranians say, yes, we have said that we will not be pursuing a nuclear weapons program. So what happens now is there are these discussions that are taking place beginning tomorrow, overseen by Oman. They're taking place in Geneva. But this is really a pivotal moment, I think, in the discussion between the United States and Iran. We will see what happens next. But there's no getting away from the fact Donald Trump has sent the military to the coasts of Iran and into the region, building up the biggest military supplies there since the Iraq War of 2003. What he intends to do with that, we still don't know. And we still don't know if the US is thinking about a military strike on Iran. I think Donald Trump is definitely weighing that up. But for the moment, he hasn't made a decision because he knows it could go very well, but it could go disastrously badly. But really, that was the only foreign policy discussion there was during, or statement there was during that speech. No mention of Ukraine, just very rapidly on passing. No mention of Russia. No mention of Greenland, and pretty much keeping to domestic policies only.
What about the state of the U.S. economy? Because Donald Trump can tell Americans that they are winning so much, but are they essentially going to buy what the U.S. president's selling?
Well, this is also curious because there is a difference between what Donald Trump is saying, and if you listen to the speech that he made, he is giving the impression that everything is going brilliantly well in the United States. It's never been so good. People are living in the best possible country in the world that is back from the brink, and it's all thanks to Donald Trump. This is all about Donald Trump in this speech. Economy is the big subject. Immigration was the other big subject. But when push comes to shove, even though Donald Trump is saying the economy is doing much better, the American people themselves don't seem to be feeling that. And I think that is showing the difference now between what Donald Trump thinks and the support he's been given by his Republican base, who are just giving him good news about the economy. He's saying things like inflation is on the way down, when in fact last year it went up a little bit. And people are struggling to make ends meet. But I'm not sure that this is being bought by many of the American who voted for Donald Trump and his MAGA base, because we've seen a fall in support for the US president, now about 39%. That's a 10-point fall over the last year. So Donald Trump is beginning to worry about the midterm elections, which are coming up in November, which the Republicans could lose in favor of the Democrats.